Good day. I've been thinking about this Robert Downey Jr. as Doctor Doom news, and I have some more things to say about it and to note about it, especially after we've gotten some new news about it. Now, the first bit of news I want to cover is that I am surprised, but also a bit glad from this reaction I've seen from the fan base, because usually what happens, and what I think that Marvel was wanting to happen with this announcement about RDJ, is that they thought that the core Marvel stands were just going to eat it up and absolutely love it, and that there would be hype around Marvel again, and that Marvel would be saved, and that essentially the same sort of positive response that came with Hugh Jackman coming back as Logan would happen with Robert Downey Jr. and Doctor Doom. However, that's not what happened. In fact, the response has, I would say, skewed mostly negative over this Doctor Doom announcement. In fact, there are some defenders out there, but for Marvel, where you're normally just having people, even the stands just eating up everything that they do, no, most people have been pretty negative, or at the very least very skeptical of this. There's been a lot of disappointment. Just look at this IGN poll, and while it isn't a landslide, the no's of, if you were a fan of Iron Man and Doctor Doom and all that, outweigh the yeses, and that is just something you never see from these sites, from these communities that have a lot of the diehard stands that just accept everything. It has been a very skeptical to negative response overall, and I actually like that, because I think that that is very important for fans to remain skeptical and basically put a fire under these people behind the scenes to understand that no, this is not a slam dunk by any means. In fact, we might not be understanding our fan base as much as we think we are here. We can't continue to put things out that we can't continue to just pander to people and expect that we will always have success. That is important. However, it's a little too late to back out now, because contracts have been made. This is locked in. This is going to happen. So we just have to deal with the consequences of it. But the main things that fans have a problem with, and I'm talking about the diehard Marvel stans, the main things that seem to really turn them off from this is, number one, Doctor Doom is a huge villain from Marvel Comics, never done right, never given justice on screen before, as Fox used him in a poor way, wanting to see him cast for a long time, a lot of speculation on who would be cast for a long time, and to have RDJ, who they obviously know is not right for this role in terms of what he's going to be in the comics, who they obviously know is taken back just to pander to people, just to get butts into seats. It's disappointing, because that means either RDJ is going to come back and be a completely different person, not with the charisma of Tony Stark, which I don't think is what's going to happen, or he's just essentially going to be evil Tony Stark with all that charisma, sort of like what they did with Ultron, which is what I think that they're going to do, and that is going to be highly disappointing to watch. But that's half the reason why fans are upset, because you wanted Doctor Doom for so long, and now you're just getting Robert Downey Jr. again, and that they're wasting that character for this, at least as of now. Of course, that doesn't mean that there couldn't be another Doctor Doom down the line with the multiverse and all of that stuff, but the other reason why the diehard stands seem to be disappointed with this is because, here's the thing. Nobody disagreed with Tony Stark's send-off in Endgame. Nobody disagreed with the way that he died. Nobody disagreed that that was time for his story to be done. And there are a lot of disagreements for characters in the way that they were handled. Like, some people are not a fan of how Captain America was handled with his ending. No one disagrees with how Tony Stark's story ended. That was perfect. And this is going to be important for what I'm going to talk about in this video is Iron Man remained the one character in all of this that had been untainted, like untainted by anything that had happened. Like Falcon and Winter Soldier retroactively bashed Captain America. Thor: Love and Thunder destroyed his character and turned him into a complete joke. Scarlet Witch character assassinated. All of that stuff. She-Hulk show disparaged She-Hulk. Also made some very crass jokes about Captain America. All of that stuff. And I think that that is why people are just so negative on this. This is why I'm negative on it coming into it. It's because it's like Iron Man was my favorite character from the series, and he was the one that I could at least say that his story is complete, it's untainted, and now I'm worried that you're tainting that one way or another. The best case scenario is that that was not the final
time we got to see Robert Downey Jr. as Iron Man, because it wasn't just that he was playing that was a death scene. It was that was the send off for the character, and now it isn't gonna mean the same thing when you have him playing even a different character, a different version of it. It's like you had that scene and it was perfect. It was everything I wanted at the end of Endgame, where you had the original 6 cast sign their names and sign off, and Robert Downey Jr. did it at the very end, and you had the noise of him working in the cave at the very end to just close out the movie, and it was perfect. And that was like a once in a lifetime experience to get that. But now that's going to mean something different when you have this actor coming back at all. And that is why even the diehard Marvel stans don't like this, because everyone was in agreement that they liked that and that he shouldn't come back. And now you're doing this, and you're having it take over a character people already really wanted to see. I think that is where they're really losing a lot of people, or losing them in the sense that people aren't on board with this, because no doubt in my mind, this movie is going to make a lot of money. You don't have Robert Downey Jr. coming back in an MCU movie and have people not curious. Like, we're all talking about that. I can't fault it on Disney's part that this got people very curious. It got more people talking about Marvel than ever. So from a purely cynical marketing perspective, I can't fault them on that. But it's they really want this to happen. And to just explain for a minute just how desperate they are for this to happen, we got some news, and the news was the paydays that they are getting for this movie and the circumstances that happen behind the scenes of getting these people back. First of all, the Russos are being paid $80 million to come back to do these movies. The article did not specify if that's $80 million each or just between the two and between the two movies, but they are getting $80 million to do this. Robert Downey Jr. is getting more, significantly more than $80 million to do this. Like, let's just ballpark it as more than $100 million right here. He is getting his own private jet. He is getting a trailer park dedicated to himself. He is getting private security. He is getting the works. And Robert Downey Jr. is apparently the one that secured the Russos coming back, because he said, I will not come back unless the Russos are doing this. So that is as desperate as Marvel is to get Robert Downey Jr. back. They have paid him more than I have ever heard any actor get paid. Usually actors that make this kind of paycheck are when you take a back deal for, like, I get a cut of the box office, like Tom Cruise did with Top Gun Maverick, or Margot Robbie did with Barbie. Even then, I heard it was like $56 million that she got paid. Over what is apparently $100 million to get an actor back for these two movies is absolutely insane. And not just that, there's the expenses of the private security he's going to have, the plane, the trailer park, the setup, the fact that they gave him his conditions in terms of the directors they would work with. That is insane. But that just tells you exactly how badly, how desperately the MCU wants this guy back. It tells you that this is their all or nothing moment. This is the moment that they have to make it all work, that they do not want to lose what is their major cash cow, because Marvel is the major cash cow of Disney. Like, even Star Wars, they never really got it off the ground in the first place, relatively speaking. Marvel is their huge cash cow. That is what Kevin Feige built from the ground up with the other producers, and they do not want to lose this. And they are willing to sacrifice so much just to get this to happen. Because right now with, let's just say, and this is probably a modest estimate, over $100 million for Robert Downey Jr., $80 million for the Russos, the director and the lead actor's paychecks, $180 million plus, probably $200 million. That's not even getting into the production costs, the crew, the rest of the cast, assuming like Tom Holland and Chris Hemsworth come back, Mark Ruffalo, the CGI artists, the catering, the locations, all of that. Can you imagine how much this movie is about to cost? And let's just assume for a minute now that there aren't going to be any reshoots, because they are giving themselves a pretty small window to shoot and edit this. It's going to start shooting in the second quarter of 2025, so that's around March or April or so. And it's going to come out in May of 2026. So that gives them like a year to get this done. So I would assume no reshoots, but it is a tight schedule. They still have to get the rest of the cast signed on board. I imagine some deals have already happened, as it's been implied. Have to get everything set up. And like, how much is this going to cost? This is an Avengers movie with a huge cast. You've already just paid out so much. Is this movie going to cost $1 billion to make? It is crazy. This is like the pinnacle of spending. After all of this spending that we've seen in Hollywood, this is like the pinnacle of spending. But it just shows you how this is like their big catapult moment where they are going to catapult themselves into doing this, because it's not about getting a profitable movie. It's not about getting a decent movie out there. It is about saving this Marvel brand that they have made so much money off of and making sure that it can still go forward, because they've realized that they might have almost lost that. Like, having a Marvel movie get only like $200 million or so, as the Marvels did, was the biggest horror story for the Disney executives, and they need to get that back. And they will do anything to get it back, and this is what they are doing. So, like, there's no going back now. This is the big catapult moment, and it could be a major crash, except for, and this is the big exception, Robert Downey Jr. clearly is getting whatever he wants from this movie. He is coming back on his conditions. He has not agreed to do all great movies himself. He was part of that Doolittle movie, but we do see him coming back to this character and having his conditions met. We do see the directors that made those movies work come back. And yes, the Russos have kind of become anti-filmmaking. Like, oh, we're going to make everything AI. Like, that is something concerning. They got the original writers back, which I don't know how much time they're going to have to write this thing, which is concerning. But they do have the original people that did it. However, all the circumstances around them come about. Like, what they've done well, what they haven't done well. They have the original team back, and you have a guy who was a part of this universe from the beginning, who is having his conditions met over how things are handled. Now, here's the thing. As I said before, any story can work, even one that we're reacting to as badly as this one, as pandering as it sounds. And guys, please stop being like, you need to read the comics. You need to read the comics. A what if comic when Iron Man became Doctor Doom, which came out recently, no doubt happened because they wanted to justify this happening. That's what Marvel's been using their comics for. That's why characters like Miss Marvel and Female Thor and Ironheart started appearing in the comics, because they had original plans to push those characters in the movies. That's what happened. That they use the comics to retroactively defend and set up what they're going to do in these movies. So, but even then, even though that doesn't matter, you could still make this good. But here's what you need to do, and I still think that they needed some help on this. There's definitely the desperation and the desire there to save this universe. But they need to respect their fan base and respect what they like about these characters. Because going back to what I was saying, I'm afraid that they're going to take the one character that was untainted by all of this, Iron Man, the most important character, and do something to tear him down. Because yes, it was the like the lack of direction and the bad storytelling that tore down Marvel. But what really is at the core of it all, like, all of that is important as well. And they need to start writing good stories. They need to start respecting their fan base and understanding you can't just put out slop and expect people to clap like seals. I hope that the reaction to this casting taught them again, you can't do that, because it was pretty negative across the board. But you need to respect your audience by giving them good stories. You need to be well written. You can't just expect that audiences are going to accept slop. And also, you need to respect the characters, because that was a huge thing that I would say that damaged Marvel at the core of everything, is that, once again, you took these characters that we had as our heroes and you tore them down and you deconstructed them and you basically laughed at them and spit on them and tried to get on more on different characters besides them. You made She-Hulk try to be the replacement for Hulk, and she was just awful, for example. You made a Falcon sort of disparage Captain America on the way out. all of that was the real problem. And with Marvel, I think that they just fell into the trap that a lot of things have been doing these days, where it's like we're going to be more successful if we disparage the old audience and try to build up a new one. And that hasn't worked. And I think that there are still people behind the scenes at Marvel that are able to realize that and go forward. And I would hope that Robert Downey Jr. cares enough about his legacy to not do anything to upset the legacy of Iron Man. Some people might argue that this already does that just by coming back as this character at all. And you might be right. I don't disagree with that at all. That just doing this at all does that and ruins that great death scene. But it is possible for any story to be good. But I just want to say, for Marvel, you need to remember why these things were popular, because that's the real problem. It's not whether you get this guy out on camera or not to be this character. Remember, you were popular because you had well-written stories like Winter Soldier and Infinity War with the very quotable lines, perfectly balanced as all things should be, with Winter Soldier, with the character development of Captain America, figuring out what his place in the world was going to be. You did have intelligent writing, but you also allowed people to enjoy these characters as heroes. And that's sort of the different tangent I want to go on finishing up this video, is that people keep saying, oh, Marvel is what keeps theaters open. Everyone wants to go see Marvel. We go see those movies when they're entertaining, yes, but also the reason why superheroes resonate with people so much is because we like to have heroes. And we certainly haven't had any of those recently. Like, all the major franchises have been put into the ground. Like, there's still good movies that come out, of course, but like all of the huge fan communities, at least the ones from Hollywood movies, those have like been dissipated. There isn't much community you can join a part of these days from things from Hollywood and just be happy about things. It's so much discontent. And I just want to say, for this, I think that if I were to say one thing to Marvel, it would be, please just allow these characters to be heroes and not be deconstructed and not torn down and not mocked. Stop trying to make these movies for people who are never going to like Marvel. You don't have to like Marvel, but let us like it. Let us like it for our reasons, and let us enjoy it for what it is. Stop trying to change it to chase other audiences or anything like that. Like, once again, She-Hulk was trying to do that. And, you allow us to enjoy these characters as heroes and this sci-fi storytelling as it is. Stop trying to deconstruct and rewrite and make it into something it's not, because that is like my biggest fear going into this movie, that it is just going to taint the last remnant of the MCU that had been untainted on its way out. Because Avengers Doomsday, ironically, could either be the thing that gets everyone talking about Marvel again and gets everyone back on board, or, and is the direction that a lot of people feel it's going to go into right now, it could be the Avengers Doomsday, literally, where after something like that, especially if this is going to have like $1 billion price tag on it, it could be the film that tanks Marvel, and you cannot go back to these characters because you've used up everything except the X-Men. I think that they're saving the X-Men as their epilogue last resort after everything else has gone down, but at that point, if they really destroy the Avengers, then I don't think I would want to watch it at that point. But it's, for the reason I'm saying all of this is, I do see the desire from the MCU to correct, and it's not like, for example, the way Star Wars is, where I was trying to give Star Wars the benefit of the doubt and be like, let's not call these people evil vampires who hate the Star Wars fan base or anything. Then I watched the Acolyte finale and I'm like, no, there's no way these people don't hate the Star Wars fans. I don't get that from Marvel, but I do get the impression that they are still taking us for granted and expecting us to be like clapping seals for everything, especially how they came out and be like, there's only one guy who can play Doctor Doom. And I'm like, we all know that's not true. But they need to start respecting their fans in more ways than one, respecting them with good writing and respecting them with actually good characterizations. I'm not sure if all the speculation I've heard about what this movie is going to be is going to turn out. There's been some speculation that Spider-Man is going to be the anchor being of the Marvel Universe, and Dr. Evil, Tony Stark, Dr. Doom, is going to come back to kill him, which sounds absolutely embarrassing. However, I would watch that. To Marvel's credit, we're all going to watch this. Maybe they're convinced of that already, which is why they're spending so much money. There's been other speculation that maybe the Marvel characters are going to bring in a Tony Stark from another universe to be the anchor being of their universe. Don't like that idea at all. So I'm just wondering how it can all turn out. It'll at least be very interesting to watch just from the perspective of watching these movies. But from an emotional perspective, I'm like, I just don't want to see yet another character tainted and destroyed. And I wish that would be something that would be understood behind the scenes, because I want to be excited about things. I want to enjoy them. But right now, after this video, and we'll see if I have anything else to say about this, but it's making me feel like I just really want to tune out and not watch any more of this. And when it comes out, I can't help but see what this actually turns out to be. But after that Comic-Con panel, I was just like, I just need to tune out. But what do you guys think of these updates? Do you think that this has broken the Marvel fan base? Do you think that this Doctor Doom announcement was just the last straw for Marvel fans, and that they just cannot keep accepting all of this pandering, and that this is just not going to work? Or do you think there is still a chance to salvage this and make it work? Thank you, patrons, as always. If you want to support me on Patreon, as these 8 wonderful people have done, you can check out the link in the description. Thank you guys so much for watching me, and I will see you guys next time.